In this video, we're going to be discussing how you can go about creating your very own board game. Now, we're going to cover how to plan, design, test, and build your board game so that you can share it and play it with friends and family, and you will know exactly how to create your own board game from scratch at the lowest possible cost. Now, before we go into all of that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Paul. I am a content creator, an author, an artist, musician, and I have created stories and board games that accompany those stories over the past 5 or 6 years, and I've just reached a stage in which one of my board games is about to become available for purchase. So I haven't just created one board game, I've created multiple, but this is why I know I can give you probably some of the best advice you're ever going to get when it comes to creating a board game. And the reason for that is I'm not an expert. Okay, I was not an expert when I went into this. I did not know much about creating board games. I had dabbled in it before when I was younger, but it's never been something that I've looked at to do professionally or anything like that. So I am a complete novice when it comes to this, but I have gone through the process multiple times. So like I said, we're going to cover how to plan, design, test, and build. Now, let me tell you this, you don't need experience yourself to create a board game either, okay? You just need enthusiasm. You just need to be enthusiastic. You need to have played some board games to understand how to go about this. But you just need to be enthusiastic, and you also need to be, you need to have very, very good attention to detail, because without attention to detail, there are things that you might miss that are going to make your board game unplayable and undesirable to players. So we do need to focus on many of the things that I've listed here below, but we're going to go through those things in a second. Now, you're building this because you want to enjoy it, okay? I know there are some of you out there that might be thinking, cha-ching, you're going to make money from making a board game or whatever, but first and foremost, you must build this board game so that the players enjoy the game. That's got to be the main thing. So don't be looking at popular board games, don't be trying to copy things, don't be thinking you're going to create a massive franchise or anything like that. You just need to create a board game that's going to be really enjoyable, and it must work, it must be playable, all right? So let's get into the first topic then, and that is how to plan your board game. So first things first, you need a journal. You've got to journal. You have to have something to jot down your ideas, get all of your ideas out now while they're fresh in your mind, and you must keep this with you, and you must use it at all times to record any of the ideas, any of the things that you want to change about your board games. Anything that you think about that has anything to do with board games has to go in this journal, because you'll need to go back to that information to make changes to the game as you continue to develop it, okay? You need to revisit your ideas and be able to implement them quickly in order to go through everything else you need to go through in this process. So the second thing you need to concentrate on when you plan, when you're in the planning phase, is obviously the idea and the theme and the topic of your board game. So what is your board game about? Don't worry too much right now about genres and types and making your board game like any other. Don't worry about that too much now. You need to be in your creative phase, okay? So you really need to think about what your board game is about, how it might play, draw some pictures, use some images. Now we're really brainstorming and using our journal to record all the ideas that we're having for what we want to include in our board game, okay? So the next point that you're going to have to really focus on is going to be the game type. So what type of game is this going to be? Is it going to be a card game? Is it going to be just a board game with pieces? Is it going to be a combination of the two? Please, again, don't worry about categories, don't worry about genres, don't worry about any of that. Okay, the reason we want to avoid any of that in this planning phase is because all that seems to do is just limit your creativity, and you need to be really, really creative when you're coming up with your board game, because it needs to be something unique, it needs to be something fun, and it needs to be something that you're going to be proud of, that's going to be your ideas, not someone else's ideas just rehashed and turned into a board game that you're going to put your name on, okay? Now the next thing that you're going to have to think about when it comes to the planning phase, so this will be the, what will this be, the fourth thing will be the components of the game. So the components of the game are obviously the game pieces, the board, the cards, die, anything you need to use, counters, whatever it is you need to use to play your game, you need to think about the components. So now you can go back to your journal, you can see all the ideas that you've written down, you can make a list of the components maybe in the back of the journal, and when you start to see a huge list of components, here's what I'm going to advise to you, okay? Keep things to a minimum, all right? Because later on we're going to discuss that, and you're going to need to keep things to a minimum, because if you've got too many components in your game, you're going to have a hard time playing the game, testing the game, never mind creating the game and building the game, okay? So we need to think about the scale, the weight, the cost, and the complexity of those components, all right? We don't want too many things making the game too complex. We don't want lots of components weighing the game down, and the reasons for that will become obvious a little bit later on. Okay, so that is the planning phase in a nutshell. But one thing that you also need to think about at the end of this planning phase, well, not at the end of this planning phase, but throughout this planning phase, is who is the game actually for? Okay, so think about the complexity of the game, like how old are the players going to need to be to understand the game or enjoy the game? You know, is this a game for children? Is this a game for teenagers? Is this a game for young adults? Is it a game for older adults? How much time does it take to play? A lot of people have got a different amount of time to play these games. Hardcore gamers, they're going to be able to sit down and play games for hours, even days, weeks, you know. Whereas casual gamers, they maybe want to get a game out of the cupboard and play it for half an hour after dinner, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at a stretch, but that's getting into the hardcore gamer territory. And then you want to think about how many players you actually need or want to play the game. So how many players can play this game? Is this a game for people who can they play solo? Can they play with 2 players, 4 players, 6, odd numbers? You know, can it be flexible? Can they play solo and with as many players as they want, up to a number of players? You know, you need to really think about that, because when you get to the design process, that's something that needs to be really hashed out and worked out before you start testing, okay? And then also you need to think about the playing environment. So where is this going to be played? Is it going to be a travel game, tabletop game? Are you going to be able to hold most of it in your hand? Can you play it on the move? Can you play it on the go? That sort of thing. So these are things, and all these things, everything that I've just mentioned, you can put in your journal. That's the point of having the journal. That's why it's the first thing that we need to get, because we need to write all these things down and make notes of all these things. And the more organized you are in your journal, the better. Woo, it's hot in here. Okay. So the next phase of this process of creating your own board game is the design phase. Now, I know obviously the most creative of you right now are jumping for joy. You're like, yes, finally, I can paint, I can draw, I can design things. But the design phase, okay, is not just about making it look good. The design phase is all about building the game and actually deciding how the game is going to play. So this is really about the mechanics of the game, the way that the game works, and the way that the game is also sort of kind of translated to different players, because different players may play your game different ways, or you might have one of those games that's played exactly the same way no matter who the player is, and so you need to think about how your game translates to the players that are playing. So the first thing you want to do in this design phase is research, and I know that can sound really off-putting to some of you because you're like really creative people, and research has never been one of my favorite things to do, but in actual fact this is a massive step in the design process, because if you don't do this, well, I mean, think about what you've got to concentrate on here. What is available to you? So never mind what you want your game to do, what can it do? I mean, are there things that you're going to be able to create and build? Are there things that people are going to be able to play? You know, what's the accessibility of this game going to be like? You know, we don't want to make things that are just really technical or really difficult for people to get to grips with. What are the tropes? What are things that people don't want from a game? You know, I remember with the Tales of Arca game that I created with my son a long time ago, we had a roll the die to move mechanic in the game, and we got rid of that within a few days. It was just the worst thing that we did for our game. It was absolutely awful. I'm not saying don't do that with your game, but I'm just saying there are some things, and that is a trope that nobody really likes anymore. You know, we've grown out of rolling to move. It's annoying. And what's missing? You need to think about what's missing. I mean, when you're doing your research, it's a great opportunity to find out what's missing from the market. It's a great opportunity to find out what do board game players want that they're actually not getting. Go on the forums, read the reviews for certain games, watch people playing games, go and play games with people, do your research. If you don't do your research, then you might come up with a great idea for a game, you might create the game and make the game and get the game printed and everything else, and then like 6 months later realize that you could have done something amazing with the game that you haven't done because you didn't do your research. So do your research, please. Now, next point in the design phase, this I have to stipulate, I have to overemphasize this, right? I'm going to overemphasize this. Keep it simple. Simple. If you don't keep it simple, okay, you're going to have serious delays in your design process. And delays in your design process aren't just going to cost you time, they're going to cost you enthusiasm and energy. All right. So when it comes to actually designing the game, what we've got to start to do is we've got to start to like get pieces of paper and scribble things down and make game pieces and draw the board out and all that sort of thing. But when you're doing that, this is not the prototyping stage. This is just the design stage. So you do not need to prototype yet. Okay. This is just the point in which you have little scraps of paper and you play the game, be it by yourself or with a friend or whatever, and you work out how the game's going to work, what the mechanics of the game are going to be, and you start writing down all these ideas in your journal. This is why we need the journal, okay? So during this phase, when you're keeping it simple, basically the next phase is to play the game. So you've made the game out of bits of paper and now you need to play it. So you understand the mechanics, but what do you need? What game pieces do you need for the game? What don't you need? What can you omit from the game that you don't really need? What's not important? After you've been playing it for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, what things have you just got over to the side there and you've picked up once or twice? Like, can we just get rid of those? Are they unnecessary pieces that don't really need to be in the game? Because let's face it, sometimes you got to kill your darlings, and that just means that these things that you really loved in the beginning, they aren't actually important to your game. So just get rid of them. Okay. Now, obviously, you need to think about the changes that you're going to be making to your game, so they need to go straight in the journal. Get them in the journal. All right. Now, we're moving on to the best part of the design phase, which is the visual design. So what is it actually going to look like? I mean, you need to think about it fitting to your theme. You need to think about it relating to the players that are playing it, the age of players that are playing it. You need to keep it unique and new and fresh. You don't want to be copying existing games. So this point can be really exciting because now you can start to think about the design elements. I wouldn't go into doing final design elements, but you do need some design elements because we're going to be reaching the stage in a minute that you're going to be testing the game. So you need to create some kind of prototype. And now we've reached the phase of the design, well, the stage of the design phase where we're going to actually create the prototype. So this is when you will actually create your game. And now you're just like making stuff. You're not ordering stuff. You're not going onto websites and ordering lots of stuff. If you feel that you can do that, you have a large budget and you're just like, do you know what, let's just prototype the whole game and get the board made, get whatever, get game pieces even, then go ahead, do that. But if you're on a tight budget and if you want to do this quickly as well, because that actually takes a lot of time, please just make everything. Make absolutely everything. Only order what you can't make, okay? What we did in the beginning with the Tales of Arca was we ordered like some blank cards. So we got these blanks. This isn't a blank, this is an actual card, but we got blanks. And we use craft mounts because other spray glues are absolutely a complete mess. Craft mounts, lovely, it gives you a nice fine spray, and we sprayed the pieces of paper that we cut out with our designs on them, with all our card data on them, and we stuck them onto the blanks, and that way we were able to shuffle the cards because obviously they were real cards, but we had our blanks covered with our information, so it made the whole game playable. So you could do that. I really do suggest you do that. Honestly, that was a great step that we made because we were able to play the game like it was an actual finished game. So yeah, and then I have a really big tip for you that actually I didn't do and I really wish I had. Make your game components bigger than they actually need to be. If you make them bigger than they need to be, you can get your pen, you can get your pencil, whatever, and you can scribble down notes on your game board, on your cards, on even your game pieces, so that you can then continue playing the game, get your journal out, transfer your notes, and you know what you're doing when you come to the next stage of the development. Okay, so making things bigger is actually going to help you. Okay, so design phase done. Right now, before I go on to the next phase, let me just explain. I am going to obviously go into more detail with this, if you'd like me to. Okay, so if you'd like me to go into any more detail about anything that I've covered in this video, then you can just leave a comment below this video and I'll try and respond. And if there's a lot of comments that I need to respond to, then I will just create another video for you. Okay, so let's carry on and get to the next phase of this mission, this journey that we're on to create our board game, and that is testing. So when we get to the testing phase, it's quite straightforward, really. Quite straightforward. The first thing you need to do, the number one thing you need to do in the testing phase is not no, you're not playing your game. No, hard work first. Okay, we have to write the rules. We have to have a document that someone can pick up and read, so they understand how to play the game. Now, this isn't going to be the finished version, okay? This is going to be like our second journal, because we're going to write all the rules down, and then we're going to continue developing the game as we play test, okay? So we're obviously going to be able to play through the game now that we have our rules, because we need to stick to the rules as well as other players. You can't just play it willy-nilly. You need to know exactly what the rules are. So once you've written down all your rules, all the fundamentals, everything, and it's not just a list of how to play the game, we need people to be able to solve problems and ask questions and find answers in our rules. So remember that as you're playing the game, maybe write in your rule book, oh, I need to add this information in here, and start to build it out so that you can condense it down, be really concise and really direct and obvious with your rules, because people need to be able to reference things quickly when they're playing the game. The last thing we want is a big fat rule book like that where you have to go to the index and then look at paragraphs of copy just to find out whether this character can move there or go past another character when they play a specific card. It's so annoying. You've got to keep things simple, or at least concise and easily explainable in your rule book. Okay, now you've got to then share your rules, but who do you share them with? Now this is a point of, I'm not going to call it controversial, but this is something that some people will argue with. Okay, most people say that you want to begin to play test your game with people that haven't played it before. I say do not do that in the beginning. That's something we can do later on, but in the beginning what we need to do is we need to have a testing partner. I had a great testing partner, my son was at a great age, and he's a wonderful age now. We've played the board game for like 4 or 5 years. We've developed it together, we've built it together, we've designed it together, and now when we're playing it, we can look back and remember all the things that we used to do when we played the game, all the mechanics that we had that we just dashed to one side, all the things that we changed, and it's brilliant. But by having a testing partner, what that means is you're going to be able to have this person as on this journey that you can explain everything to, so that they have a really good understanding of how the game is played. And as they're playing with you, they're actually going to be able to help you and have an insight into the way things work, so that when they see something, when they spot something that isn't right or they feel could be changed, you both understand each other and they're able to convey a message to you that you're going to really be able to understand. And none of it's going to be like this emotional roller coaster of judgment or criticism. It's just all about developing the game and making it better. Having that person on this journey is going to be invaluable, because that's going to mean you can refer to each other and you can both see the game from different angles, and you'll both experience different things as you're playing the game. So it's really, I think it's really important to have this person on this journey with you, part of the development process. Okay, so you need to play the game as much as possible with this person. Okay, you need to test the game and you need to amend. That means your journal is with you at all times, and you've got to refer to that journal and make sure all your changes are written down in that journal. Okay, now once you've been testing frequently and making amendments and everything else, now we need to invite one new player to play the game. A brand new player doesn't know anything about the game, hand them the rules, let them look at the rule book, start playing with them. Okay, now a lot of people will say, oh, just jump to the next phase and have 2 people play the game and just watch them play. I like to play the game with someone new first, so that I can help them and guide them through the game to get them a little bit further, so we can get a full game experience, so I can take them all the way to the end of the game and get as many notes as I possibly can about the whole game. That's going to help me on the next phase, when I give the game to 2 complete noobs and they play the game for the first time and I just observe. Okay, so at this stage we really want to make sure that we're playing the game with this brand new player, and we have our journal there and we're making as many notes as we physically can, so that we know what we need to change about the game, what's good, what's great, what could be better, and everything else. Okay, then we take it to the 2 players and we just observe. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, I don't know, it depends on what your game is, right? And then the next phase is very, very difficult. This is the hardest phase by far. I guarantee you. We got to take a break. Okay? We've got to take a break. We've got to stop playing the game, and we've just got to take a break. That's it. No more. No more board game playing. Just leave it. Just leave it a couple of weeks. Just give it a couple of weeks and leave it alone. Okay, once you've done that, what you'll find is you'll come back to the game, you'll have like new energy, new motivation, new ideas. You can jot them down in your journal. You can get rid of your journal during this couple of weeks, or you can keep it with you. It's up to you, but leave the game alone, because sometimes when we're focused in on something, our perspective gets really, really narrow. Like when you're in a dark room and you look at a certain point and everything starts getting darker and darker. So that's what happens to our perspective. So you must take some time off before you come back to it. When you come back, you're going to go through the two previous things that you did before. So you're going to play with a new player, and then you're going to play with your play partner. The playing with your play partner is like the last point. That's when you've let other people play the game. They've seen the errors in your game. They've spotted things that you want to improve. You've made all these amendments. The game is nearly perfect. But the people who are now going to be able to see the things in your game that you really want to change, they're the idea makers. They're the idea bringers. They're the creative sparks. And that's you and your play partner. So when you sit down and play the game, you're going to be able to see things that you want to change, that you want to improve, or that you want to omit from the game. So that is literally the last point of the testing process. Okay, now here's a little tip for you. During the testing phase, you want other people to play the game, try and make a digital version. Making a digital version of the game will save you so much time, so much paper, so much card, and you're going to be able to invite multiple people to play the game at the same time. And there's going to I'm going to be able to share with you a service that I've used to digitize the game, and you can use that service to do exactly the same. It's a brilliant service. You can create game rooms and everything else, and just invite people to play the game, password protect the game rooms. It's fantastic. If you find another way, that's great, but I'm going to make a video about that because I think it's really, really important, and it's a brilliant service. So if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments below. Okay, right, now the next phase. This is the final phase of building your own board game. Okay, the building phase. This is the building phase, the final phase. So the first thing that we must do, the very first thing, choose a manufacturer. You have to choose someone who's going to make your game. Why? Because they're going to have certain components that are available. They're going to have a certain design process, or a build process. They're going to have certain templates that you need to download and follow. Okay, so before you start doing your final design work, you need to know who you're working with and who you've got to provide your designs to actually get them to create and ship a physical version of your game. Okay, so we're going to decide, well, we're going to find out what assets they've got available to you. You know, you might want different size cards, for example. They might have a certain size of card, they might have a certain finish of card. You know, you need to compare these different manufacturers, work out what the costs are going to be, work out what the weights are that they can ship, how much it's going to cost, and everything else before you do your final design. Okay, so once we've done that, once we've chosen our manufacturer, then we have to move on and do our final design. Now this is exciting, because now we get to crack open the software, the design software. We get to go absolutely crazy and make the best artwork that you can possibly make to be featured in your game. But please, 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 before you start, think about these things, okay? The theme, stick to the theme. The environment, okay? Think about the environment that the game's going to be played in. Do we want a load of dark pieces? Do we want a load of bright pieces? Do we want reflective pieces? What pieces do you want your game to feature, and how and where is it going to be played? You need to think about those things just for the, I don't know, just for the vibes of the game, really, okay? And then the player type. What type of player is it? Do we want these horrific pictures on the game cards when we've got 12-year-olds playing the game, 10-year-olds playing the game, or do we want cartoon pieces when it's for adults? You know, you've got to think about those things. Think about who your game is actually for, yeah? And then size and weight. This is really important when it comes to things like shipping. So how many cards are in a deck? How many decks are in your game? Because I'm telling you, if you go crazy with cards, paper is heavy, trust me. In actual fact, it can be a lot heavier than plastic. So you do need to consider how many components go in your game, because you need to consider how much it's going to cost to ship. If it's just for you and you're the only person that's ever going to own a version of this game, then you can go crazy. But if you're planning on sharing this game with other people and you want to sell it to other people, then you really do need to think about the weight and the shipping costs, okay? And you need to think about how easy it is to actually play and use. How easy is it for us to get the game out of the box and set it up? How easy is it to put it away? Does it all fit back in the packaging properly after we've put it all together, or have we got to tear it all apart to put it away? Those things matter, because for some people it's the amount of time that it's going to take them to set the game up and put it away, which dictates whether they're going to choose to play the game again, and that can affect your reviews and the obviously the performance of your game when it comes to sales, okay? And we need to think about the finish. So the finish is the last thing. Second to last thing, sorry. We need to think about whether we want a glossy finish, whether we want spot UV, things like that. You know, you can have like certain areas that are foil finished and what have you. And be careful with this. I made a mistake with this. I had some spot gloss on my game board, and when the game board was folded together, the gloss stuck to itself. And when we pulled the board apart, when we unfolded the board to play it, it pulled some of the finish off. But that could have been just a manufacturer problem. I don't know. You could do that. It might not be a problem, but I'm just sharing my experiences. Remember, I'm a novice. I've done this a few times, but I'm not an expert. So packaging is the next thing. When you're building, you need to think about the packaging. What is the game going to look like when it's closed and it's in the box? It needs to be something that your players are going to like relate to straight away and understand. I know what to expect from this game now that I've seen the packaging. Okay, I don't know whether I did that right with this one, but this is the Tales of Arca box that I've done. This is the Dark Fantasy game. It has like really sort of realistic characters in it. There are high fantasy characters in it. There are beasts in it. There's a Grangor in it. There's all kind of things in there. Kayas and Wotheraks and all sorts of stuff. Really weird stuff. But when I came to doing the packaging, it was just a reflection of what's already in the box, okay? So you can see there, it's just artwork, and there's only a couple of pictures of what's inside the box on the back. So that was just an artistic choice, but you might want to feature more of your game on the front. Especially for kids, you want to take a picture of the actual game in action, maybe get an illustration done of that or whatever. But you need to think about your packaging in the way that it's going to be conveyed when people see it. All right, so that's the last thing that we need to focus on. That's the whole list. I've gone through everything that I could possibly think of. Well, not everything I could possibly think of, but everything that was really important when it comes to creating your own board game. And apart from that, if you have any questions, or if there's anything that I missed out or forgot, if there's anything that you would add to this list, let me know in the comments. And if you have a lot of information that you want to learn about, some things you want to ask me, or some questions that are on your mind, then let me know, and I will make further videos and I'll go into more depth on all of these particular topics, so that we can really go deep into what you need to do to actually build your board game and design your board game, work out your board game mechanics, what I did, obstacles I overcame, and where I found my information and the resources that really helped me out when it comes to the design process. Okay, so please like and share this video. If you want more information, like I say, go ahead into the comments and I will create more videos for you. But until then, that is how you can go ahead and create your board game. I've done it 3 times so far. Yeah, I've got a card game here. Here is a High Water. We've got City of Ghosts Escape, and obviously we've got the Tales of Arca game. And bear in mind that I'm not selling these to you right now. These aren't even for sale right now, but one of them is available to play digitally, and I will be back in the next video, which will be showing you exactly how to set that up so that your players can access your game online and play the board game as if it is a real physical board game online. It's absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to share that with you. But until the next video, I've been Paul, and thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.